What did you notice about the way the teacher launched the task to help situate the students in the context of the problem?
So I noticed that the main feature was that she used a video. And I also noticed that it wasn't just any video. She had a personal relationship. She was like, I wrote this as a kid. And that also it was from like the front of it. So the point of view was where you could feel everything. I could hear the creaks and the wood moving, and you could go up when the coaster was going up and they went down. And so it helped situate some students in either remembering a roller coaster or maybe gave them some aspect of feeling a roller coaster if they haven't felt one before.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. I think also, if you listened really carefully, some of the context was about this idea of, she mentioned that the students were going to take a look at older roller coasters. And so I think that particular video, when you were talking about how she mentioned she had this experience of she's ridden this coaster and she was bringing up, how old is the oldest coaster, right? It helps students if they haven't ever had an experience riding an older roller coaster, right? It did all the things that you said. They got to see that if coasters, are steel versus coasters are wooden, like what that experience might be. So I'm imagining that if students have had experiences today riding coasters, they probably have had an experience riding a steel coaster if they've had that, right? And so it helps them, I think, contrast like maybe some differences between the materials, which I think is important to the task that they're getting ready to do if you're focusing right on older versus steel. And definitely the part you had said about just, what if a student hadn't ridden a coaster before? It gives them kind of that experience to hear the sounds and they can imagine the ups and downs and even the speed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think I really like how she started really broad with this question of, what are some of the scary or thrilling things about roller coasters? And then by the end, she's really narrowed it down to just one attribute that they're going to focus on. And that's not to say that none of the other attributes are interesting, or she can start them here with this one attribute of height for them to focus on. And then once they've explored that and experienced that, they can kind of go through and do other attributes that they might have been interested in. And I think it also gives some student agency to bring that in, because some of them did say height. Right. So some of them are like, oh, the teacher's taking my advice and that's what we're focused on, even if that was her plan from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's a really good point, because that shows how important your planning goes into this, right? So she's already imagining what the discourse might be like later and is kind of setting students up for this investigation. Like when you were pointing out how she made the question really broad, which I think allowed entry point for lots of different students, right? There's almost not this wrong or right. It's like, what makes it scary or what makes it, thrilling for you? And there's no wrong or right answer, right? But then that helps students think about what are some attributes, right? She doesn't use those words, but that's what's important to data. We want students to think about characteristics of data. And so it helped them start thinking about that. And then further with the coaster, gave them some more ways to describe or to think about some of those attributes. And we know that many students would probably think about some of the attributes, that came up, and how, that could later lead to students exploring those and the kinds of discussions like you might have around it, like typical, heights or things like that.
Yeah. Right. And just to jump on what you were saying a little bit, you were talking about how she was providing access to everybody by starting so broad. Both of you touched on that, but she also didn't take away from the cognitive demand of the task. She proposed something that still gave them plenty of room to explore and put their own ideas into it and take it in their own directions without a specific procedural pathway, which I think is really important with the launch.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Anything else anybody noticed that they wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I think it was a good launch, and I would be excited to see what the kids came up with as a result of it.
Yeah,
I think so.